All right, here we are live for our stand-up. It's 11:22, 22nd of November. We're going to talk today about a question, or I look at it as a statement that Yuri made that I immediately said, that's not true. I don't agree with that. But Yuri made the statement, there are no superheroes in cybersecurity. It's a team sport. Now, I agree with the latter half. Anything in business, most things in business are a team sport. But I disagree with the notion that there are no superheroes. And growing up as a big sports guy, I spent a lot of time watching football, basketball, weightlifting competitions. And there's a lot of parallels into team sports. I mean, weightlifting competitions are an individual sport, but things like football, you can't tell me and understand. I really dislike the guy from the history and supporting the teams that I like. But Brady is one of the greatest, if not the greatest football players of all times. And you can't tell me he's not a superhero walking into Tampa Bay and winning a Super Bowl after they were complete garbage the year before.
Hey, I'll take that. I mean, hey, we need a Florida team to win. So
Yeah, I mean, you got a Florida Super Bowl because of a hero, Batman and Robin, right? It was Brady and Gronk that went in there and was just like, hey guys, let's go win a Super Bowl. And they did it.
yeah, yeah. And that's fair. I mean, that is fair. And this is an interesting conversation to have because I think it also matters the lens you're looking through the statement with, right? In my mind, kind of what I was thinking was like, hey, you could be extremely good at what you do. You could be, an incredible security architect or a CISO. But if you try to do, things on your own without getting, input from other stakeholders, you will fail. And, unlike sports, you don't have as many fans at companies. You might have a couple people who are friendlies, right? But I think that's the other thing is if you just come into an organization and you're like, that's it, I'm going to start doing, I have this top 20 list of things I'm going to do. I'm going to make all these changes. I'm going to make the company more secure. Well, the moment you start trying to do a lot of the things, you notice, oh, wait, I don't have IT on board. The disaster recovery and business continuity team, they're not responding to my emails. I need them to do this. And so I think it's a realistic team effort that needs to happen for the security team to align with the business, to align with IT, to align with finance, the audit committee, etc. And I think that's really where uh, cybersecurity teams thrive is in that type of environment where they're not just trying to be superheroes and reach 100% security, which doesn't exist, but they're trying to make alliances and find other friendlies in the company to really move that needle.
Yeah, those are good points. And to be clear, when I think about superheroes existing or not, in an ideal world, my teams do not need superheroes. We build an environment or environments where the need for a superhero should be minimized. You don't want to be in a situation where it's like, well, the only way out of here is to go get a superhero to come in and save the day because we're so screwed with where we've put ourselves. And so I think there's something to be said for looking at your environments, looking at your processes and your systems that you have in place. And it goes to having multiple lines of defense. If you've only got MFA and that's it, and that's your whole defense against ransomware, you're going to find yourself in a position where you need a superhero to come in and save you because your network has been compromised and you maybe don't even have any idea of what's really going on, and the ability to get back to good is above your own capabilities. And so it's about, how do I build an environment to minimize the need for a superhero? It doesn't change that they exist. You might even have them on your team and they're operating in a capacity where most days they're not a superhero. But to me, that's a different, like, there's still superheroes, and sometimes you need them
Yeah, yeah,
depending
yeah.
on what's going on in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also if you are the superhero in your organization or, in your at your company, I think one of the other things you should think about is, hey, okay, I am considered that superhero. I just dive right in and get things solved. I think it's also really important, and Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, talks about this a lot, is keeping your ego in check, right?
Mhm.
Highlighting other people's assistance to your superhero capabilities, right? Because if it's always about you and other people who are, in my mind, oftentimes a supporting cast, if they're not highlighted, like, hey, I wouldn't be able to do whatever I'm doing without this person or that person, I think it's going to be incredibly hard for you to keep having those superhero powers. You're just not going to have support from others, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. One of my important qualities in any superhero that I have is a dose of humility. Like, you can't be out there like, I'm the superhero, I'm the big shot, this place only thrives because of me. Like, if that's your mentality, ego driven, ego based, it's all about me, that's not a superhero that I would want on my team. And so, when I think about team building, and this is true in business, this is true in cybersecurity, managing any kind of team, you have to find the people that can be superheroes, but also have still a dose of humility, and they're not running around like they're the only reason that anything is happening.
Yeah, 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 and that's not to exclude um, superhero type behaviors. Like I'll give you an example. When Log4j hit, I was at a company that had servers that were vulnerable to Log4j. Right. Having said that, the security architect who had architected the design of that entire system thought this attack through years in advance. And he said, you know what? There's really no reason these servers should ever be able to communicate to the internet. Well, what does that do? If there is, if a system was exploited with a log4j vulnerability, if that system could not talk to the internet, the attack is broken. And so I do think there are superhero type capability, traits that people will have that they show not when they're needed, but even before, prior to the need being there. So I would say I think we agree.
So I have a
Uh,
question
yeah,
then.
yeah.
So help me understand the difference between a superhero and someone that shows superhero traits. Are you not a superhero if you have superhero traits?
Well, maybe in your mind you are. And when I think of superhero, like you mentioned, the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans, everyone knows about you and you're there to save the day, right? And so I think very functional organizations and teams are better without having a single rock star. Now that being said, they have someone who's a leader, and that person can help teach others, but they're not, because if you're the superhero everyone looks to every time, do you have a team that's growing, that's learning, that's becoming better, right? And so I know you and I talked about this, but it would be interesting, like if Michael Jordan didn't have Scottie Pippen and Tony Kukoc and the others, Dennis Rodman, would he have been able to win as many NBA championships as he did?
I think he did just fine with the Wizards at the end of his career.
I don't think so, man. I think he did pretty bad, didn't he?
Uh,
I think they had a losing record.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a good question. I'm not up on all of my sports ball, basketball stats of,
yeah,
because that was at the time where I was just really starting to get into my career, and I abandoned any and all sports there for like 5 years where I got really focused. But uh, obviously, a superhero in a team environment can't do it alone. If
right.
Tom Brady went out on the field by himself, he's going to get sacked every time. And so a superhero needs people around them to fill certain roles, do certain things that ultimately allow them to flex their superpowers. But I don't think just because you have a team around you that negates you being a superhero.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Well, great discussion. Brian, anything else you'd like to add?
I'm looking up Michael Jordan with the Wizards, 2001, 2002. That's how many games played he had.
What was their record?
That's what I was looking for. It brought me to Michael Jordan stats. Um, Come on. Well,
They were 19 and 63, so 19 wins, 63 losses. There you go. My
in
point exactly.
2001,
Yep. I remember that. Yeah, they didn't do that well. But it could be
whew,
said, was Michael Jordan? I don't think he was at his peak anymore, right?
no,
And
absolutely not. I mean, 2001, like his rookie year was what, 85, 86,
yeah,
something like that. So he'd been playing for 15 years at that point.
yeah. The only team that did worse in the Eastern Conference was his former team, the
It was
Bulls.
the Bulls. It's the only reason the Wizards had 19 wins is because of Michael Jordan. Was that not a heroic effort?
There you
Imagine what they
go.
would have done without him. They'd have
Right.
been 1-72.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The other thing, I guess, maybe we leave it at this is if you are constantly the superhero, um, you have to accept the wins with the losses, right? And in cybersecurity, a loss can be devastating. It could be a breach, right? And so you have to think about, hey, I want to make sure that my supporting cast, the team around me, does their job, right?
Yeah.
Because you might be a phenomenal CISO or security architect, but if your sysadmins don't do their job of securing their servers, their internet facing systems, boy, that could lead to a compromise, and then that's an issue.
100%. And I go back to, a superhero can't do it alone by themselves in a team environment. A superhero will fail. A human superhero will fail, not getting into the fictitious ones, but in any work environment, if you try and go it alone, yeah, you will get resentment, you will get rejection, you will get people that don't want to work with you, and then you're going to hit a spot where it's very difficult to get anything done. And it doesn't matter what superpowers you have, you won't be able to use those. So it goes back to building an environment where ideally you don't need those superpowers, but knowing that they're there and that you have good relationships with those around you because you keep a dose of humility and people don't see you as egotistical or
Yeah,
overly compensating or too heavy-handed, anything like that. To me, that's the ideal environment. It's the environment where you don't need a superhero, but you got one just in case.
right. Yeah, it
Maybe
reminds
two.
me. It reminds me of the story. I think it was Marcus Aurelius, right? You might have heard of this before, Brian, but like after a major victory, he would be walking through the city, in celebration, and he would actually have one of his servants. He told one of his servants, every time I go through a victory, as the people are cheering for this huge win, whisper in my ear, "You're just a man. You're just a man. You're just a man." Right? I think that there was a different spin in it. Someone else said, that the servant would whisper, "All glory is fleeting. All glory is fleeting." Right? So
Mhm.
same thing here. I think that humility aspect is so important. Just because I think people, I mean, me personally, I like working with people who are leaders, who are humble, who don't take all the praise for themselves, right? And I think that's really what makes a true superhero.
Sounds good. Yeah, I agree with all that.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, Brian. We'll talk tomorrow on Thanksgiving Day. And yeah, this was a good one.
Sounds good. Same to
All
you.
right, take
Take
care.
care.